All right, everybody. We're here with our great friend, of course, Traitor Hunter, Miss Survivor, Natalie Anderson. Natalie, how are you?
Hi, this is giving me like TBT vibes from like both my other trade Survivor seasons and having
Yes.
getting to talk to you.
Yes. Okay. And remember, we even got to talk on the show. Natalie, tell me about that last day because it was a very emotional exit for you at the round table and for all of us watching. If you could have done anything different that day, is there anything you could have done to change things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get this. People say like, "Oh, I wouldn't change anything." It's like, yeah, I would change a lot actually. I would have if Tara, once I realized Tara was not on board, I should have just directed my energy towards convincing people that it was Rob instead of trying to fight with Tara and getting so upset and worked up in that aspect and being like, okay, she's dumped you, like let it be. Now let's try and see what we can do to either redirect her vote and redirect the other people's votes towards Rob. But that's what I would have done. And oh, if I could go back more, I wouldn't have let myself be isolated by Johnny and Tara. They kind of like cock blocked me from everybody else the rest of the day and like cornered me in on the car rides and in the castle. And I didn't spend any time with Mark. I didn't spend any time with Maura or with Eric. And those are the two things I would change about that last day.
Let me ask one other question on that. Was Tara more the holdout or was Johnny more the holdout with voting with
Hold out
you?
meaning what?
Like not wanting to vote with you?
So I think that Johnny influenced, you see that scene where Tara's like, I don't know if I can vote against Natalie. Like she's really believing that I'm a faithful. And we've done that we've had that moment where we both realize we're faithful. And that's like a very unique thing to have in the castle where you look at each other and you're like, fuck, it's not you. Like we can trust each other. We had that moment. And then Johnny convinced her otherwise. So I think it was more Johnny really that was the cause, but then Tara is the one who expressed it at the table. And obviously, I didn't see that scene. So I'm like, I'm going crazy at Tara. Meanwhile, she was probably the one that was struggling with it more.
Natalie, we did see you bring up the dagger in the roundtable prior to this, and obviously the dagger was something that ends up playing a big part in everyone's hesitance to go against Rob. Can you speak about the dagger six and what was it about? Like, just yeah, tell me as much as you can about the dagger because I feel like it kind of went quiet until you brought it up at the previous roundtable.
Yeah, so Rob, first of all, bringing it up and telling everybody, I was caught off guard by that because I was like, oh, you're my number one, which I should have had a red flag, should have gone up right then. But I was like, why are you telling everybody about this bloody dagger? It could have been between me and you. But then I didn't want it to be like this, like who knows who has the dagger because they don't show if you voted off somebody with the dagger, they could give it to somebody. So I was like, why am I taking the heat for having this dagger when I don't have it? Because I don't want people to vote me off thinking she has the dagger, let's get rid of her. I was like, Rob, if you have the dagger, why don't you own it? Because I don't want this heat on me. So the last round table, I was telling him, I was like, dude, I'm thinking he's my number one, right? I'm
Hmm.
like, dude, as my like my person, why don't you tell people that you have the dagger because I'm in the hot seat and you aren't? Yeah, and it was kind of like forgotten, but and I think that speaks to who we're playing with, right? Like they're not thinking about the dagger because
Yeah.
they're just like thinking about other things.
When you said to him, "Hey, bring up the dagger," and he says nothing, was that part of the reason that got you to thinking that he was actually a traitor?
That was like one of the things because I was like, this is not like number one ally like kind of behavior. And I've said this like where I had these feelings about Rob, but it's almost scary to admit them until Tara came to me and I was like, oh, I do have somewhere to go. If I have to leave Rob, I have her and I have Johnny. So then it became like almost I was like saying it's okay to admit these feelings about Rob, but until then, like even though I'd had these feelings, I didn't want to accept them because I felt like I had nowhere to go with them because everybody was thinking I was a traitor and was icing me out in the castle. So I had nowhere to
Mhm.
go until that moment with Tara. But yeah, definitely that was one thing. And then his behavior randomly towards the end of the season was changing for me.
That's what I was about to ask you. You had mentioned that his behavior had changed. What was it that changed between when you had linked up with him to now, closer to the end, he's starting to seem suspicious to you?
So he's like demeanor of confidence and chill was something that I was attracted to in the castle. Like I love that in a house full of crazies, including myself, he had this energy of being very chill. And so that changed and it became a little bit more performative. And I was just like, I was like wary, but then he stood up for me at the round table. Then it takes you back. That no, no, he has my back. So I was like battling back and forth with identifying him as a traitor because I didn't almost want to believe it. And it was just like this shift in him, like, and whether it was like just him fucking up and people on like social media saying like, no, that is the real Rob. But I never saw that part of him. Like the eye roll, I guess there's like an infamous eye roll scene that he has,
Yes.
which obviously I don't know shit about Rob. I'm from fucking Love Island. So there was just like these random things that I was like noting, but then didn't want to like almost accept because it felt like useless, you know?
Yeah. How about Eric? He's sort of going under the radar as a traitor. And we know that there was the issue with Kristen when she said, hey, you look weird. And Mark was there for that. But did anybody else ever talk about Eric as a traitor?
Literally nobody
Hmm.
until I guess once they voted me off, then they're all on it.
Yeah.
But nobody, I never thought of him as a traitor. I never like factored him even like though like he was significant in that Tiffany vote for me, which obviously I now regret so much falling for that bullshit with his ears. But like I I never even like thought of him in any kind of way except for a number and definitely not as a traitor. But it makes total sense now when you look back. Like if Rob was a traitor, I should have been like, who would you recruit? Oh, Eric's a perfect example. Like perfect.
Hmm.
Natalie, once Jam Jam leaves the game after that banquet, you're the last remaining quote unquote gamer in the castle. Were you surprised then to realize, well, there's no gamer in that turret, and also now they might look at me because I'm the only gamer remaining? Were you nervous about that?
Yeah, 100%. Everybody there thought there has to be one gamer. So lucky me, I was the last one. And even though I had done everything like with the banquet, like I was like, guys, this should exonerate me from being a traitor. Because why would I do this if Jam Jam's going to be murdered? Why would I be fighting with Tara for a fucking antidote, you know? But I could not convince them otherwise. I was like trying to do it for the gamers. I was like, I don't want to be murdered. I don't want to be banished or murdered because like I want to do well for all of us. But at the same time, it was like an uphill battle for all of us. And clearly we were targeted. And there's this level, I said it on one of my other interviews. It's like gamers, we come in guilty and we have to prove our innocence versus like everybody else gets to come in innocent and they have to be proved guilty to have heat on them. We come in with the fucking heat and we have to do everything to get it off of us.
Do you feel like that this castle in general had kind of an overall anti-gamer bias coming in?
Yeah, I feel like there's always a bias against gamers. I don't think the gamers before us have helped us because
Hmm.
they watch them and they are like, oh fuck no, you know. But I think that that's just like what we have to deal with in this game, and it's part of the game of having all these different game show like reality TV people. But I don't think it's not fun because we are targeted from the start, and there's like this don't work with her, she's a gamer kind of vibe, which I
Hmm.
definitely felt in the castle, you know, and that's why I regret us not being able to work together and have each other's backs because only we would have had that feeling and know what that feels like in the castle.
Makes sense to me, Natalie.
Yeah. Even me, I voted for against Tiffany.
Hmm. All right. But Natalie, I know you have to run. Anything else you want to tell people about your trader's experience?
I mean, I'm happy I came back. It was a very difficult decision for me to come back. I didn't feel ready to be back on TV, but
I didn't know that.
yeah, I had a concussion like 2 years ago, and like and I've had concussions before, and it was just like a really tough couple of years for me leading up to this, and it was Nadia. It was like, I'm not letting you pass up on this opportunity. So I went in not feeling like 100% prepared, but she told me, it's just like sometimes in life you're not going to feel prepared, but you just have to fucking go for it. And I'm happy I did, even though I didn't win. And it's been like a fun experience. It's been emotional, but a fun experience to be back. And I'm happy that fans welcomed me back on their TVs. I feel very grateful for that.
Okay. Well, you put up a great fight. If you ever want to talk more about the whole thing, we'd love to chat more about it. But in the meantime, hope you're doing great. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, we'll schedule a therapy session soon.
Sounds good. Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.